Albert Sidney Fleischman, also known as Sid Fleischman, was born March 16, 1920, and died March 17, 2010. Fleischman was born Avram Zalman Fleischman in Brooklyn, New York, New York. His parents were of Russian Jewish origin and moved the family to San Diego, California when Fleischman was 2 years old. As a child, he held his first magic show, beginning a lifelong fascination that would find a place in many of his books. He learned magic from books and the local groups of magicians, inventing new tricks along the way. He began performing professionally while still in high school, touring California with his friend Buddy Ryan, performing in nightclubs, and traveling the country with the Francisco Spook Show during the last days of vaudeville. After wartime service with the U.S. Naval Reserve, he finished college at San Diego State University and worked as a reporter at the San Diego Daily Journal. When the paper went under in 1950, he turned to fiction writing. Fleischman says that when he knew very little about writing, he wrote very fast. Now it takes him much longer, 3 to 5 months, to write a complete short book, and sometimes much longer if he can't figure out how to get his characters out of the jams he's put them in. Fleischman finds ideas lurking everywhere. The problem for the writer, he says, is not so much in finding an idea as in figuring out what to do with it. That may take years. Fleischman and his wife Betty, who died in 1993, had 3 children. His son, Paul Fleischman, followed him into the world of children's books. They are the only parent-child pair to win the Newbery Medal. Fleischman maintained an interest in magic all his life, hosting monthly meetings of the Los Angeles magicians at his home and publishing occasional articles in the magic journals. The Whipping Boy, which took Sid 10 years to write, is a Newbery Medal-winning children's book published in 1987. In this story, Prince Horace is spoiled and craving attention from his father. He frequently misbehaves, and as prince, no one may raise a hand against him. Therefore, his family provides him with a whipping boy. Jemmy. Jemmy is an orphan boy who will be punished in the prince's place. Though he has learned to read and write and mathematics while living in the castle, Jemmy is beaten several times a day and longs for the freedom he once had on the streets. The prince decides to run away on a whim and demands that Jemmy act as his servant during his journey. While on the run, the boys are picked up by 2 notorious highwaymen, Hold Your Nose Billy and Cutwater, who hatch a scheme to ransom the prince. Jemmy talks them into believing that he is the prince and sets into motion a plan of escape. The prince misunderstands Jemmy's intentions and betrays him. Even so, the boys escape. They come across a girl searching for her lost dancing bear, and she directs them to the river where they find a kind man with a wagon full of potatoes. The boys help the man get his wagon from the mud, and in return the potato man gives the boys, the girl, and the bear a ride to the fair, but they are captured by the highwaymen. Still believing Jemmy is the prince, and believing it to be a crime worse than murder to beat the prince, they beat Horace instead. The dancing bear scares the highwaymen away, and everyone arrives at the fair. The girl earns a few coins with her bear, the potato man boils the potatoes and sells them, and the boys head down to the sewer to catch some rats. On their way, they hear some people talking about the missing prince. One woman makes a remark about how much worse things will be when the prince becomes king. The prince's feelings are hurt very deeply, but he does not show his emotions. When the boys learn that the king has posted a reward for the whipping boy, they go into the sewers where they see the highwaymen. They trick the highwaymen into the most dangerous sewer where the rats attack them. The prince decides that he wants to finally go home. When they return to the potato man, Horace reveals himself as the prince and suggests the potato man collect the reward for the whipping boy. When the prince explains the entire escapade to the king, Jemmy is pardoned and the 2 boys live in the palace as best friends forever. Sid finds his inspiration everywhere. His novel, The 13th Floor, began with the superstition that there is something magical and evil associated with the number 13. In this story, Buddy Stebbins and his older sister Liz are newly orphaned. Buddy and Liz come from a family who settled in Massachusetts in 1910, but the family history goes back even further, to a Captain Crackstone, a pirate from 300 years ago. Legend has it that the captain buried some treasure which has never been found and that his real name was John Stebbins. With the recent death of their parents, Buddy and Liz are facing a large amount of debt. Soon they must sell their family home. Then a message comes from the past and is picked up by their answering machine. It is from a girl called Abigail Parsons. Her language and instructions are very strange, almost old-fashioned. Liz ignores the message and thinks it's a joke. The next day, Liz does not return home from work. Buddy decides he needs to go out and find her. In searching for his sister, Buddy is led to the Zachary building where he finds the non-existent 13th floor and is transported onto a pirate ship in 1695 where he meets the real Captain Crackstone. Luckily, Buddy has his school backpack with him. It is fun to discover how many items in his bag prove useful along the way. The ship is heading for Boston just in time for the madness of the witch trials to begin. Reunited with Liz on shore, the two of them must save their ancestor, 10-year-old Abigail, from being hung as a witch. Liz is a passionate advocate and is ready to fight this case, but 17th century Boston is not ready for an outspoken young woman to speak at the trial. All the while this is going on, Buddy and Liz are trying to find a hidden treasure so they can get out of debt and save their family home. Jim Ugly. 12-year-old Jake Bannock's father, Sam, is dead. He was buried in a pinewood coffin with ice inside to keep him cool and comfortable. But Jake has heard about a fortune in diamonds that makes him begin to wonder if his father is really dead or just hiding out somewhere. So Jake sets out with his only inheritance, a wolf-like tracking dog named Jim Ugly, to find his father and finally learn the secrets his father had kept hidden for so long. As Jake makes his way through the barren California desert on a locomotive train, he meets many helpful and some not-so-helpful characters. Some of these characters include Wilhelmina, Sam's secret fiancée, Dee Dee Skeets, an assassin who almost always misses his target, and the traveling, boisterous Arizona girl performer, and the nasty Cornelius, the man who hired Dee Dee Skeets to kill Sam Bannock. One exciting part of Jim Ugly is when Jake goes to the doctor who supposedly took the bullet out of his father's shoulder, but only found a bullet Dee Dee Skeets had fired at his foot while aiming for his father. This made Jake's suspicions about his father not being dead even more likely. After Jim Ugly sniffs a shirt of Sam Bannock's, he runs across town down to the railroad, Jake sprinting behind him the whole way thinking to himself, "Dad's not dead. Dad's not dead." This begins a quest across miles and miles of dry, dusty terrain, over tall mountains and through many areas of California, dodging old Confederate assassins along the way. Sid Fleischman has won many awards throughout his career. Some of his awards include the Humor Award in 2003 from the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, the Parents' Choice Award, the Red